Hold on a second. You're going way too rough. You like it this way, don't you? She never does this for you, does she? Please don't say that. Call me by my name. Just like you always do. I was standing right outside the bedroom door. I quickly realized that the person with Charles was my own sister, Lily. I felt a surge of anger rise inside me, and I had to pinch my hand to keep myself from barging in. Stay calm first. I pulled out my cell phone and decided to record their conversation. Never in my wildest dreams did I think Lily would be the one. The first sign that something was off was when I got home. I'm back. There was a pair of women's shoes in the hallway that I didn't recognize. It was immediately clear that Charles had brought someone home. Then I heard voices coming from the bedroom upstairs, so I moved toward the door. Their voices were echoing throughout the house, clearly getting more intense. But why come to this house today? Because it makes it more exciting, don't you think? Yeah, I guess so. But usually it's at the family house. We've been careful not to get caught before. But well, she's too clueless to notice anything anyway. You're right about that. She would never imagine we're doing this. She's a fool. It finally made sense why I hadn't noticed their relationship sooner. I never imagined they were meeting at my parents' house. Still, I kept recording, thinking this would be solid proof. I wondered what our parents would think when they heard this. That was the only thing keeping me sane at this point. I thought about barging in, but my feet wouldn't move. Why not? If I went in, I'd catch them in the act. Maybe deep down, I couldn't handle seeing it for myself. So when are you going to give me a baby? Come on, you know that's too risky. Your husband will find out. Don't worry, I'll sleep with him afterward, and he'll never know. He's so oblivious. You're a terrible wife. Not as bad as you. Listening to this conversation for so long was making my head pound and my stomach turn. I couldn't take it anymore. That's when I decided to call out to my husband, Charles. Where are you? As soon as they realized I was there, I heard the window open in a panic. They were probably trying to hide on the balcony. But that was the worst thing they could have done. Because today, of all days, it was snowing heavily. They really messed up this time. I slowly stepped into the room, glancing around at the clothes carelessly strewn across the floor. They had run outside, completely naked. When I looked out, I saw them crouching, trying to hide in the corner. I immediately locked the door behind them. Then I started thinking about what kind of punishment I should give them. I couldn't believe how excited I was feeling. My name is Layla. I'm 34 years old and work as a sales rep for a local company. I live with my husband, Charles, who's 3 years older than me. I met Charles while I was on a sales visit. In my mid-20s, I had just switched jobs and was still getting used to the work. I remember how kind he was, even to someone as inexperienced as me. Thank you very much. Oh, no problem. Keep up the good work. Yes, I will. At the time, I just thought he was a nice guy, nothing more. It took a while before we crossed paths again, but it felt like fate when we did. I have one sister, Lily, and it turns out Charles was one of her classmates. Lily got married 3 years ago, and Charles happened to be one of the guests at her wedding. Do you remember me? Oh right, from the sales call. Exactly. I didn't expect to run into you here. So what's your connection to Lily? Lily and I were classmates in high school and college. Wow, I didn't know that. As we chatted, Lily, the star of the day, walked over to us. Wait, you two know each other? Well, kind of. We worked together on a project. Yay, it wasn't a big deal. But thanks to that, I was able to close a deal. That was your own skill, trust me. As we kept going back and forth, Lily started laughing. What's so funny? I was just thinking, you two make a great match. Don't tease me like that. I'm actually kind of serious. Thanks to Lily's pushing, Charles and I ended up exchanging contact information. I figured Charles must have been a bit annoyed by Lily's persistence, just like I was. But about a week after we exchanged numbers, he called me. Hello. Sorry to call you out of the blue. It's no problem. What's up? Oh, well, I was wondering. Yes, would you like to grab dinner sometime? Sure. I answered without thinking. Great. I'll call you again soon. With that, he hung up. I didn't dislike the idea, but it felt too late to back out now. Honestly, I didn't have much experience with dating, so I wasn't sure what to do. Even though it was just dinner, I couldn't help but feel nervous. At the time, I was still living with my parents, so I decided to ask Lily for advice. Even though Lily was married, she had chosen to stay at home and live with our parents. Wow, he asked you out. That's great. Well, it's not that it's great. I just don't have any experience with this kind of thing. Then it's good you asked me for advice. Lily had always been popular. Even back in school, she used to bring different guys home. I thought she'd give me good advice, but I was wrong. As we got older, she calmed down a bit, but she still enjoyed forcing me, the shy one, into doing things. And I can't even count how many times she's made me cry. Layla, just relax and enjoy the ride. As long as I'm here, you don't need to worry. So what should I do? How about seduction? Charles is weak for that kind of thing. Wait a minute. I'm just going for dinner. What are you talking about? Dinner's never just dinner. And the ridiculous advice kept coming from Lily. But that wasn't the only problem. Our parents spoiled Lily, which gave her free rein. Compared to me, who was harder to handle, they favored Lily, who always knew how to charm them. I wanted to move out right after I graduated from college, but they wouldn't let me. They didn't care much, but they still wanted to keep me close. Then the day of the dinner finally arrived. Good luck. Thanks. I'll be back later. In the end, the dinner went well, I think. It was fun, and way better than feeling awkward at home. I had a great time. Can we meet again sometime? If you're okay with me, I'd love to. I'm glad. Honestly, I'm not that experienced with women. If you say that, I'm even less experienced with men. No way, I've got you beat. No, seriously, I do. As we bantered back and forth, we both burst out laughing. It had been a long time since I'd had this much fun. It felt natural for us to grow closer and eventually start dating. But there was one person who wasn't happy about it. Lily. Despite all her teasing and encouragement. Wait, you're actually dating him? Yay, we are. I can't believe it. Did you follow my advice? There's no way I could have done that. How did this happen? I found out why Lily seemed so bent on sabotaging things from an unexpected source. Really? Is that true? That source was her husband, Thomas. Yay, it's true. You know Lily and I met in college. Right, yes, she told me about that. Well, I also became friends with Charles back then. Apparently, she had a crush on him in high school, but he had a girlfriend at the time, so nothing happened. Why are you telling me this now? I overheard her talking about it recently. But don't get me wrong. Lily's not all bad. Thomas had a sad look on his face. He really did love Lily. And yet, here she was, still hung up on an old crush. This situation was deeper and more complicated than I had imagined, and it was only going to get worse. Although Charles and I were officially together, Lily wouldn't stop prying into my personal life. She would show up in my room, asking question after question, until she got an answer she liked. And what else? What do you mean, what else? Like, have you gone to a hotel or something? I don't know. That was my small act of defiance. After that, Lily seemed to settle down. By this point, Charles and I had been together for about a year. And then, on my birthday, happy birthday. Thank you. Here's your present from me. What is it? Inside the small box he handed me was a beautiful ring. Is this? I want you to marry me. I'm so happy. Yes, of course, I'll marry you. I promise I'll make you happy. With that, I was over the moon. It wasn't just about being with Charles. The thought of finally getting away from my parents' house was exhilarating. I couldn't wait to tell both families, so we made the rounds. Charles's parents welcomed me with open arms, even more than I had imagined. But the real issue was with my own family. So Layla's finally getting married. I think Charles will be a great addition to the family. Thank you. Even my usually indifferent parents seemed happy for me. But of course, Lily wasn't going to stay quiet. Wait, you're not going to live here. Lily, what are you talking about? You and Thomas already live here. We don't have any extra space, and it's just not practical. Then why don't we renovate or something? There are plenty of options. Don't be ridiculous. We can't do that. Lily's panic was obvious. Well, that was part of my plan. Lily became desperate to find ways to keep me at the house. Enough, Lily. It's not up to us to decide. Stay out of this. Seriously. Even Thomas looked taken aback by Lily's outburst. Anyway, we're going to find our own place. Okay, yo, that sounds good. That's the plan. So we'll be moving soon. If that's what you've decided, then it's fine. Thank you. I'll never forget the look of frustration on Lily's face when we moved out. Finally, I had left the house and was enjoying some peace. We found a cozy, affordable house in the next town over. I never realized how happy I could be living with someone I loved. Even though we lived apart, we still gathered at my parents' house for Thanksgiving and Christmas. It had only been a few months, but it felt strange to be away for so long, and I was a bit nervous. I'm home. Welcome back. It's great to see you. Yeah, where's Lily? Oh, she's out shopping. Ashley, it's been a while. Charles, you're looking well. Come on in. We sat down in the living room, and my mom immediately brought out more snacks than we could possibly eat. There's no way we can finish all this. Come on, it's been a while since you've been home. Yay, but it's only been a few months. No need to be shy. I wasn't used to this kind of attention since Lily was always the favorite. Just then, Lily and Thomas came back from shopping. Layla, you're here. Yay, it's been a while. I greeted her, but she ignored me and headed straight to the kitchen. Charles, long time no see. Have you gained some weight? Yeah, Layla's cooking is too good. Glad to hear you're doing well. Thanks, I am. We all sat together, chatting and drinking tea. But Lily, who was usually the center of attention, was strangely quiet. After about an hour, my mom remembered something. Did you pick up the usual from the bakery downtown? Oh no, I forgot. Really? You need to be more careful. But it's not like we really need it. What are you talking about? It's a family tradition. What are we going to do now? Do you think there's still time to go get it? That's when Charles spoke up. I'll go. I've got the car, and I don't mind. Oh, I feel bad for asking. No, really. It's no trouble. I'll be back soon. All right then, thank you. As Charles was getting ready to leave, Lily suddenly decided to go with him. It was my mistake, so I should go too. Besides, Charles doesn't know what to buy. Let's go. She grabbed Charles by the arm and pulled him out the door. Watching them leave, my dad let out a long sigh. What's wrong? Lately, she's been off. She forgets things, and she just seems unmotivated. Lily, who had once been the golden child, was now becoming a burden. Even her husband, Thomas, seemed tired. It seemed that since I moved out, our roles had reversed. An awkward silence filled the room. The bakery was only about a 10-minute drive from the house. They'd been gone for too long. It was Mom who first noticed. They're taking a long time, aren't they? Yay, it's been over an hour by now. An uneasy feeling started creeping up on me. They finally came back 30 minutes later. Why were you so late? The roads were just a bit crowded. Did you manage to get what we asked for? Yeah, we got it. I checked a bag that Lily handed over, but Mom stopped dead in her tracks when she sighed. What is this? It's what you asked for, isn't it? Where did you go? This is completely wrong. I can understand Charles getting confused, but you were with him. Never mind, just forget it. Mom looked tired. It's not a big deal, Lily muttered under her breath, and as I looked more closely, I noticed Lily's hair was messier than when she'd left. I observed her carefully. It seemed that Thomas noticed it too. Our eyes met for a moment. It felt like he wanted to say something to me. I don't even know what's going on anymore, I thought. The atmosphere was horrible, even though this was supposed to be a time for family. How did things get like this? And so, Thanksgiving passed in this strange, uncomfortable mood. When I got home, it felt like all the pent-up exhaustion hit me at once. I fell asleep on the couch, only to wake up to the sound of Charles talking on the phone. It's fine, no one will find out, I heard him say. I called out to him. Who are you talking to? Charles looked startled and turned to face me. He quickly hung up and came over. You're awake. Who was that? A coworker. You sounded awfully close for just coworkers. As I pressed him for more, I could feel his irritation building. Why are you pushing this? I'm not lying. What are you trying to say? Nothing. I was about to drop it, realizing this wasn't going anywhere, but Charles suddenly grabbed my arm and wouldn't let go. You think I'm cheating, don't you? Admit it. Charles, who usually seemed so calm, had a look in his eyes like something had taken hold of him. You're hurting me. Let go. Then stop doubting me. Okay, I'll do whatever you want. Just let go. He finally let go of my arm. When I looked at my arm, the marks were still clearly visible. From that moment on, I began to feel afraid of Charles. 2 months later, I was heading to the hospital after getting a call from Mom. Dad had fallen down the stairs at home and broken his leg. Are you okay? Yeah, I'll be fine. Mom said you slipped. I can't believe I did something so stupid. Dad was going to be in recovery for a few months, and even after he came home, he'd need help getting around. With Thomas around, I felt a bit reassured. But just my luck. He got assigned a 2-month business trip. We all gathered at my parents' house that day. I'm really sorry I have to leave at a time like this. Don't worry about it. You have your responsibilities. Focus on that. Thank you. But I don't know what we'll do. My back's been acting up again. Before I could finish, Charles cut me off and offered to help. I'll take care of Christopher. Are you sure? You've got your hands full with work, right? I won't be able to come every day, but I can come on weekends. But you're newlyweds. Are you sure? Layla, you're okay with it, right? It would be better to have a man around. Let's just do it that way. But, do you not care what happens to Dad? That's not what I'm saying. Realizing that we weren't getting anywhere, I gave in to Charles' suggestion. Little did I know, this was the start of something far worse. From then on, every Saturday, Charles would head to my parents' house. Around the same time, I started noticing a sweet scent on him. I didn't let it slip by. Isn't that a sweet smell? Is it? Like perfume or something? Perfume. I noticed a discomfort flash across Charles' face. I felt certain something was going on. I pressed him further. I feel like I've smelled it somewhere before. Where could it be? I asked, feigning curiosity. You're imagining things. Are you sure you don't know? You're being annoying. I don't know anything about women's perfume. I didn't miss what he said next. I never said anything about women's perfume. How did you know that? Sweet-smelling stuff is usually women's perfume. A poor excuse. Tell me the truth. In that moment, something flew right past my face. I turned around in fear. There on the floor was a shattered mug. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It just slipped. I sank to the floor. The mug hadn't hit me, but the thought of what could have happened made my hands shake. I really didn't mean it. I wasn't trying to hurt you. It was just instinct. I didn't know how to respond. The fear I had felt before came rushing back. From that moment, I felt as though my life was in danger, and I found myself unable to confront Charles anymore. But that fear started to fade after one particular phone call. Dad's condition had improved, and although he still moved awkwardly, he was able to walk without crutches. It was during a call to check on him. How are you feeling? Much better, thanks. That's good. How's Charles doing? He's been a huge help, always looking out for me. I felt a small sense of relief hearing that. Oh, by the way, Thomas was asking for your number. Is it okay if I give it to him? Sure, but why does he need it? Thomas and I had never exchanged contact information. We just never had the chance. Thomas messaged me that night. Sorry to bother you. It's fine. Are you coming back soon? Yay, in about 2 weeks. That's good. By the way, I wanted to explain why I asked for your number. Thomas began telling me his reason. What do you mean by that? I've had my suspicions for a while, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Honestly, I've had the same feeling. So you've noticed too, Layla? Yes, sorry. I just didn't know what to do. That's exactly it. I'll keep an eye on things, too. I should be the one doing that, but being away makes it hard. If I find anything, I'll let you know right away. Thanks, I appreciate it. I felt a little more at ease, knowing Thomas shared my concerns. But it wasn't enough to just sit around. I decided to have Charles' actions looked into. I hired someone, and all that was left was to wait for the results. It wasn't just for me. I wanted to have answers before Thomas came back. What? What do you mean? After a week of surveillance, the results came in, and there was nothing suspicious. During the weekdays, Charles went to work as usual and came home at the same time. On weekends, he left for my parents' house in the morning to help my dad and returned home in the evening. I relayed the findings to Thomas. So that's how it was? Was it just a misunderstanding? Maybe, but I still feel like something's off. I know what you mean. It just doesn't sit right. I can understand that. It's like, after all that effort, it feels like things are unresolved. Maybe it's because we were suspicious from the start. We decided to just be relieved that nothing had happened and return to our normal lives. There was 1 week left before Thomas would come back. 2 days later, Dad had recovered enough to take care of himself, so Charles no longer needed to help. Thanks for all your hard work. Yay, thanks. You seem a little down. Not really. His words didn't match his expression. A week passed without any particular changes. Then, on Saturday afternoon, I got a call from my parents. Sorry to bother you, but could you come over now? Sure, but why? There's something we need help with. All right, I immediately told Charles. My parents asked me to come over, so I'm heading there. Oh, really? Yay, that's the plan. All right, take your time. Yay. For some reason, I thought I saw a slight smirk on his face. There was a snowstorm in the forecast for that day. Did they really have to ask me to come over today of all days? When I arrived, my parents greeted me at the door. It's freezing. So what do you need help with? Well, first, have a seat. We ended up talking about random things for a while. By the way, where's Lily? Lily went out before you arrived. She's meeting a friend or something. What? On a day like this. Anyway, what did you need help with? What was it, Ashley? I can't seem to remember. What is this? If there's nothing important, I'm going to leave. Come on, you just got here. Stay a little longer. My parents seemed oddly desperate to keep me from leaving. More time passed. And before I knew it, it was after 5 o'clock. It's really coming down out there. You might not be able to get back. Maybe you should call Charles. What? Just to let him know, in case the weather gets worse. All right, I'll call him. Following Dad's suggestion, I called Charles. Charles quickly said, "Well, I guess that can't be helped," and hung up. But I felt an unsettling sense of unease. When I called him just now, I thought I heard another sound in the background. Once the thought crossed my mind, I couldn't shake it. "I'm sorry, but I'm going home after all." "Oh, okay. Well, be careful out there." "Thanks." By the time I left, about 2 inches of snow had already piled up. Shivering from the cold, I hurried home. I'm back. The moment I opened a door, I knew something was off. I spotted a pair of women's shoes that clearly weren't mine. It didn't take long to realize he had brought a woman into our home. I heard voices coming from the bedroom upstairs, so I moved toward the door. "Hold on, this is a bit too rough. You like it this way, don't you? She never does this for you, does she? Please don't say that. Call me by my name. Just like you always do." It didn't take long to realize that Charles' partner was Lily. I felt rage bubbling inside me, and I pinched myself to keep from storming in. "Calm down, you need to stay calm." I took out my cell phone and started recording their conversation. I never imagined Lily would be the other woman. Their voices echoed through the house as they continued. "But why did you come here today?" "Because it's more exciting this way. And besides, we haven't seen each other recently." "Yeah, I guess. But we usually meet at the family house. We've been careful not to get caught until now." "She's too clueless to notice anything anyway." "Yeah, you're right. She'd never guess what we're doing." What a fool. It finally made sense why I hadn't noticed their relationship. I never thought they would meet at my parents' house. I had suspected something, but I convinced myself they wouldn't do that in front of our parents. That's why even after hiring someone to investigate, nothing suspicious turned up. Still, I continued recording, thinking I could use this as proof. I couldn't help but imagine how both sets of parents would react when they heard this. That was the only thing keeping me sane. I thought about barging in, but my feet wouldn't move. Why can't I? If I went in, I'd find them in the middle of it. Maybe I instinctively didn't want to see that. "So when are you going to give me a baby?" "No, that's too much. Thomas would find out." "Don't worry, I'll sleep with Thomas afterward, and he won't suspect a thing. He's so clueless." "You're a terrible wife." "Not as bad as you. And besides, he's not coming back until tomorrow. It's harder to meet these days, so this is fine, right?" "Okay, fine." Listening to this conversation was making my head pound, and I started feeling nauseous. I was reaching my breaking point. That's when I decided to call out to Charles. "Where are you?" The moment they realized I was there, I heard the sound of a window opening in a panic. They were probably trying to hide on the balcony. But that was the worst possible thing they could do. They've really messed up now. I slowly entered the room and saw their clothes scattered all over the floor. They had run outside, completely naked. When I looked outside, I saw them crouched in the corner, trying to stay hidden. I immediately locked the door. Then I started thinking about what kind of punishment I could give them. maybe I'll leave them out there for a little while. I walked back downstairs and headed to the kitchen. I calmly made myself a cup of coffee. Once it was ready, I returned to the bedroom, sipping my coffee as I glanced toward the balcony. They started knocking on the window. "Please, let us in. We're going to freeze out here." I ignored their pleas completely. That's when I had a brilliant idea. I grabbed my cell phone and made a few calls. First, I called my parents and my in-laws. I told them it was an emergency and convinced them to come over. The last person I called was Thomas. He was supposed to return today. Perfect timing. I was about to call you. "Oh, really? Are you home right now?" "Yes, but you wouldn't be calling me unless something was up, right?" "Yes, actually." I didn't want to spoil the surprise by telling him everything. "You're at your place, right?" "Yes, come over. I'm nearby, so I'll be there soon. See you in a bit." Now all the key players were on their way. The only thing that concerned me was Thomas's reaction. He seemed almost too understanding, like he already knew what was going on. But I didn't have time to dwell on that. I waited for everyone to arrive. When our parents showed up, I had them wait in the living room. About 10 minutes later, Thomas arrived. "Sorry for being late. The roads were awful because of the snow." "It's all right. Please, come in." Now everyone was gathered in the living room. "So what's going on?" "You said it was urgent, so we rushed here through the snow." "You're going to explain what this is about, right?" "It's about the two people who aren't here. I get that Lily isn't here, but where's Charles?" "That's right. Follow me, and you'll see." I led everyone upstairs to the bedroom. "What is this? Look over there." I pointed toward the balcony, where the two of them stood, completely naked, staring back at us. What on earth is going on? Realizing it was dangerous to leave them out there any longer, I unlocked the door. I thought I was going to die. "Please, give us something warm." I tossed them blankets. "You're going to explain yourselves, right, Dad?" His face red with anger. Looked like he was about to punch someone. "They've been having an affair," I said. Lily looked up in shock when she saw Thomas. "What are you doing here?" "What do you mean?" "I came back from my business trip today." "That's impossible. You told me you'd be back tomorrow." I knew he was coming back today. After all, here he was. I felt a wave of confusion. Then Thomas started explaining the truth. "I saw this coming, so I made a plan. Lying to you was part of it." Thomas turned to me. "Sorry, Layla. I used you too." Thomas said he had even asked my parents for help. That's why they had suddenly called me to the house. It was Thomas who had instructed Dad to keep me there. "So you knew about their relationship?" "No, it was just a suspicion. Even when Layla told me, I couldn't fully believe it. I'm sorry. I never thought they'd be doing this at our parents' house." Looking back, it made sense. Charles had been quick to volunteer to help when Dad needed care. Now that we've cleared that up, let's figure out what to do with these two idiots who walked right into our trap. The two of them kept their heads down, saying nothing. So I decided to play the recording for everyone. "If you don't want to talk, I'll help you out. What are you going to do?" "This." I pressed play, and their voices filled the bedroom, loud and clear. It was obvious what they had been doing. "Stop it. You're not in a position to ask for anything. Listen until the end." The disgust in the room was palpable. "You've disgraced our family. You're nothing to us now," Dad said, his voice cold. "All the love I had for you was clearly a mistake," said Mom. "Don't ever show your face again." "Did you hear that?" I added. Charles looked like he was about to cry, desperately apologizing to me, to my parents, and to his own. "I can't believe this. I knew you still had feelings for Charles, but I never imagined this." "I truly loved you," Thomas said. I loved you too. Who said you could speak? There was pure hatred in Thomas's eyes. It was so terrifying that I felt like I was about to cry. So what should we do with you two? What do you think? Thomas asked me. Well, divorce is a given. And compensation in the divorce settlement. Or maybe we should just throw them back outside. Hearing this, the two of them made one last desperate attempt. This all happened because you were always busy with work and never paid attention to me. That's no excuse for cheating. If you're going to argue, at least be logical about it. Otherwise, you're just exposing how stupid you are. Oh wait, that's already obvious. Lily couldn't muster a response. Anything else to add, monkey? Thomas sneered. I only did it because Lily came on to me. Are you seriously trying to pin this on me? You were enjoying yourself just as much. You're the one who suggested the hotel that time, remember? That time, when we went shopping together. Oh, I remembered what happened on Thanksgiving. That's probably where it all started. One last thing, why did you go after Charles? Because seeing you so happy pissed me off. You've always been bad with men. So you were upset because I ended up with the guy you liked, right? Yes. How pathetic. This guy isn't even worth it. You need a reality check. I couldn't help but laugh. I'm done. If we keep dealing with people like you, we'll end up as foolish as you. Let's go, everyone. Wait, please. Don't talk to me so casually. We slowly closed the bedroom door behind us. The snow outside was falling even harder now. We couldn't stay here any longer, so we headed to the nearest house, my parents' place. On the way, I couldn't stop thinking about what would happen to the two of them now that their families had disowned them. My in-laws also stayed at my parents' house that night, and they left the next day. Before they left, they apologized again and declared that from now on, Charles was no longer part of their family. Shall we head out? Yes. Together, we went to consult about the divorce and the compensation claims from the divorce settlement. Since we had the recording as evidence, the process wasn't difficult. The divorce went through quickly, and we successfully claimed compensation. Today was the day Thomas was moving out of the house. Thank you for everything. You're practically like a son to us. We'll miss you. Yay. It's a bit sad. You know, it's a shame you and Layla didn't get married. Come on, stop it. We were sharing a light moment when suddenly the two of them showed up, Charles and Lily. To top it off, Charles had shaved his head for some reason. If this was his idea of repentance, it was so ridiculous that I almost laughed out loud. What do you want? They both deeply apologized. Our parents have disowned us. We have no one left but you. Layla, please, we're begging you. I thought I told you never to show your face again. Dad's right. Besides, we're divorced now. We're strangers to each other. So why don't you just disappear? But even then, they didn't give up. Honestly, it's a nuisance that you're still hanging around. It's embarrassing. I can't stand to watch this anymore. Thomas extended his hand toward Lily. Are you going to help me? I watched, my heart pounding, wondering what he would do. Help you? You've got the wrong idea. I was just trying to get you out of the way. Lily's stunned expression nearly made me burst into laughter. My stomach hurt from holding it in. Anyway, you'd better leave. Dad's about to lose his patience. Dad stood there with his arms crossed, looking down at them. For some reason, he even looked proud. Seeing that, the two of them hurriedly fled the scene. Finally, they're gone. Well, I should get going too. Feel free to come by any time. Since the incident, I've been living back at my parents' house. Thomas and I keep in touch, and we even go out for drinks occasionally. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm sure it'll be a fun one.
When Walter and I went to visit my in-laws, my mother-in-law, who came to pick us up at the airport, said, "You can't ride in the car, so you must walk home." She snorted and turned up her nose. It's a 3-hour journey one way, and though I'm confident in my physical strength, this treatment was too much. I almost cried, but someone reached out to help me. In the end, it was mother-in-law who regretted it. My name is Jennifer. I'm 30 years old and married. I love mountain climbing, and I met my husband Walter, who is 2 years younger, in a college mountain club. Walter is handsome and popular with women, and when he asked me out, I wondered why me. According to Walter, Jennifer moves forward silently even on the hardest routes without complaining, and I like that about her. Walter works for a well-known corporation and earns a high salary. We've been living happily together since our marriage, just like our student days, but there's one thing that bothers me. Oh, it's a call from Mom. Sorry, I'll go talk to her. During dinner, Walter said that and hurried into his room with his mobile phone. Mother-in-law calls Walter frequently, about once every 2 days. Mother-in-law seems to adore her excellent son, and Walter is sweet to mother-in-law, making me suspect he's a mama's boy. But since she raised Walter with care, I think I should value her too. However, it seems our feelings are different. It happened before our marriage, when we went to greet my in-laws. Jennifer is 2 years older than my son, almost 30, huh? Mother-in-law seemed displeased with having an older daughter-in-law and looked unhappy throughout. Father-in-law said, "It's fine, isn't it? Love conquers all. Jennifer seems reliable, and she's perfect for Walter, who has a weak side." But that seemed to displease her even more. Mother-in-law seemed unable to oppose father-in-law directly, so she decided to bully me without him noticing. "Oh dear, I'm sorry, Jennifer. It seems the snacks I served you have gone bad. I'll replace them right away." When mother-in-law intentionally harassed me, she would open her eyes wide, snort, and twist her lips. I had become like a zoologist, able to distinguish her expressions. "Oh, it's okay, I can eat it." I smiled and cut off the spoiled part of the dried fruit and ate it. I had learned survival skills in the mountain club. Eat what you can of the food. Father-in-law and Walter said, "Haha, that's just like Jennifer." Father-in-law added, laughing, "Honey, Mom, that's not good. Don't serve Jennifer something like that." The atmosphere remained pleasant, but... Hee hee, I was careless, I'm sorry. While laughing, I didn't miss her brief, sharp look and a click of her tongue. There were other instances, like when she said, "Look, I went to Italy last week and bought souvenirs," and pulled out a high-quality branded tie for Walter. For me, it was a flimsy t-shirt with a fake-looking logo that was obviously a knockoff brand. "Come on, try on the tie. Jennifer, you try on the shirt too." At that moment, mother-in-law's face showed that familiar expression, and I realized it was another harassment. Now? I can't wear a tie with casual clothes. I'm not up for it right now either. I forced a smile to keep the atmosphere light, but inside I was fed up. Afterward, I only used that t-shirt for things like weeding in the summer or as a joke to show my friends in photos. I really hate even looking at it. These harassments were subtle enough that only I would recognize them as such, and when I told Walter, he would just say, "Mom's a bit quirky, so forgive her." However, the malice I felt little by little gradually wore me down. The town where we live is about an hour's drive from my in-laws, and the fact that we could easily visit them if we wanted to was also a source of gloom. Then one day, "Jennifer, I'm sorry for the sudden news, but I've been transferred. It starts next month, so please prepare." Walter's sudden transfer was decided. Walter apologized, but I was secretly relieved to have an excuse to distance ourselves from my in-laws. Plus, the new location was very close to my parents' home, so it felt like moving from away to home. Got it. Leave the preparations to me. I'll ask my family for help too. I happily proceeded with the preparations. Now, I can get away from mother-in-law's petty harassment. I was anxious about our new life, but 80% of my heart was occupied by the feeling of liberation from mother-in-law. The move was completed, and I thought I could finally distance myself from mother-in-law, but... Hello, Jennifer? Where have you been without answering the phone? You're not neglecting my son while hanging out at your parents' house again, are you? It was another call from mother-in-law. I wanted to sigh heavily but held back and replied, I'm sorry, I couldn't answer the phone earlier. I was in line at the checkout. Walter might be tired in this unfamiliar environment, so I want to support him with nutritious meals. Mother-in-law's calls started coming every 2 days. Although we saw each other less, we talked more. Most of the time, it was mother-in-law unilaterally making snide remarks. My son is sensitive, but I wonder if someone as thick-skinned as Jennifer can understand him? My son's high school girlfriend was a delicate and fragile girl, but his taste has changed quite a bit, hasn't it? And so on, saying only things that would make me uncomfortable. Does mother-in-law have no other outlet for her stress? I felt like I had become a trash can labeled stress outlet. What hurt the most were the snide comments about children. Jennifer, you're already 30, aren't you? What do you think about children? I wonder if you, being older than my son, can have a normal child? I was shocked that someone would say such a thing in this day and age, but since it was something I had been concerned about recently, tears flowed after I hung up the phone. What does mother-in-law think of me? Does she think I won't be hurt by whatever she says? After that, the calls kept coming frequently, but when I responded only with safe answers to avoid making waves, perhaps she found it boring and not worth bullying, so the number of calls gradually decreased. I was truly relieved from the bottom of my heart. Then, on New Year's Day the following year, my husband and I headed to my in-laws' house. They were going to pick us up from the airport. Hey, Walter, Jennifer. Long time no see. Father-in-law waved and greeted us. I was honestly dreading seeing mother-in-law, but father-in-law's friendliness was a relief. Happy New Year, Mom and Dad. Happy New Year to you both. Happy New Year, I'm glad you came. Happy New Year, Walter, good to see you. We exchanged New Year's greetings, but mother-in-law didn't even look at me. Perhaps she was angry about my cold response to her frequent calls. It was an awkward relationship. I was thinking about how to get through this situation. You must be tired from the journey. Shall we take a break at the airport cafe? Father-in-law cheerfully suggested, seemingly unaware of the tense atmosphere between mother-in-law and me. That's a good idea. Wasn't there a cafe on the second floor? Walter responded cheerfully, and we moved to a cafe inside the airport. Should I drive back? No, I'm still an active driver. While the men were chatting away, mother-in-law and I were silent. Excuse me, I'm going to the restroom. After ordering, I said that and got up from my seat. Oh, maybe I'll go too. Mother-in-law said, standing up to follow me. I had a bad feeling about this. Just as the entrance to the women's restroom came into view, mother-in-law, walking behind me, said, You can't ride in the car, so why don't you walk back? Not understanding what she meant, I turned to look at mother-in-law, and there was that expression again. We're going back as a family of 3. You're a stranger, aren't you? I couldn't believe my ears. Walk back? From here to my in-laws' house? How far could that be? and calling her son's wife a stranger. While I was frozen in shock, mother-in-law continued to throw words at me. I was kind enough to call you frequently, but unlike Walter, you only respond coldly. Living near your parents' house has gone to your head. I don't want to think of you as my daughter-in-law. You're a stranger, a stranger. Mother-in-law's voice was getting louder. I was shocked, but I didn't want to argue in public, so I answered in a small voice. Yes. I understand. I didn't feel like going back to where Walter and father-in-law were, so I headed for the airport exit, plodding along. Even though she told me to walk back, this was an airport. There must be taxis and buses. I could go as far as I could and walk from there. But more than that, what face should I make when I safely arrive at my in-laws' house by walking? How should I spend the few days of my stay? That weighed more heavily on my mind. For now, I searched on my mobile phone for transportation to my in-laws' house. There was a bus leaving in just 10 minutes. But that bus wouldn't go near my in-laws' house, so from there, it seemed I would have to walk. It might take about 3 hours in total. 3 hours. I can walk that. With my legs trained in mountain climbing, it's not impossible. But there's a difference between walking for mountain climbing and walking because I'm not allowed in the car due to harassment. Tears welled up in my eyes. Was it my fault? If I had been pleasant on the phone even after being told such things, would this have happened? As I was walking along, lost in thought, I was suddenly tapped on the shoulder from behind. Jennifer, why are you walking here? The voice was father-in-law's. Didn't my wife say something to you at the entrance to the restroom? I was going to the restroom too, and I saw you and my wife talking, and then you started to go somewhere, so I followed you. Looking at father-in-law's kind face, the tears that had been welling up in my eyes overflowed and ran down my cheeks. Jennifer! What on earth happened? I decided to tell father-in-law the truth. Actually, I told father-in-law exactly what mother-in-law had said, and he became angrier than I had ever seen him. How dare she say that to my son's wife? Then he said something I never expected. I'll walk with you, Jennifer. With that, father-in-law stood in front of me and started walking. Father-in-law! Don't worry, I enjoy mountain climbing, and I used to climb a lot with Walter when he was little. A 3-hour one-way walk is nothing. Indeed, father-in-law's stride was firm, not what you'd expect from a 62-year-old. Come on, let's go. We didn't tell Walter we were leaving, is that okay? I finally remembered that. In my shock at mother-in-law's words, I had just left. Walter will be fine, she'll probably talk him into waiting. I'll contact him. With that, father-in-law took out his mobile phone. It seemed he was texting mother-in-law. He told her he was walking back with me and that the car keys were in his bag. As we waited for the bus, father-in-law's mobile phone rang. Father-in-law answered, his voice filled with restrained anger. It must have been mother-in-law on the other end. I heard what you said to Jennifer. If you're going to say that, I won't ride in the car either. I could hear mother-in-law's panicked voice shouting from the other end. That's not it. She said she wanted to walk for exercise. How brazen. I was more dumbfounded than angry. We'll talk when we get home. Father-in-law hung up and shoved his mobile phone into his pocket. Perhaps because father-in-law's mobile phone was unreachable, mine started ringing next. It's definitely mother-in-law. Father-in-law and I looked at each other. What does she want now, to tell us to ride in the car? I'm definitely not answering. I decided to ignore it too. Father-in-law and I silently boarded the bus and continued to walk after getting off. This way is a shortcut. There's a slope here for a while, but let's do our best. With father-in-law occasionally giving advice, it felt like we were mountain climbing together. However, I hadn't planned on walking so much today and was wearing regular boots. Father-in-law was wearing leather shoes. This will surely hurt our feet. During the journey, I hardly spoke, but I did ask once. Father-in-law, are your feet okay? Won't walking for a long time in those shoes hurt your feet? Father-in-law glanced at my feet and squinted. I guess we're in the same boat. Making a woman walk such a long distance in those shoes, I can't believe her. Father-in-law sighed. We both thought of calling a taxi, but neither of us mentioned it, intending to spite mother-in-law. But Jennifer, you're strong. Walking such a long distance without complaining. Walter must have been attracted to that quality in you. Hearing that, I felt a little happy. Afterward, we continued to walk, buying drinks from vending machines and a grocery store to stay hydrated. About 3 hours later, as the sun began to set, we finally arrived at my in-laws' house. Their car was parked in front of the house. Mother-in-law and Walter must be home. We're back. As father-in-law opened the front door, Walter rushed over. Dad, Jennifer! I was worried. What happened? Why did you suddenly decide to walk back for exercise? Did you hear that from Mom? That's not it. Mom told Jennifer to walk back. Father-in-law said, looking understandably tired, as he sat down on a chair near the entrance. Mother-in-law, who had come out of the living room, was pale and gaping. No, that's not it. That's not it. It seems there was a misunderstanding. What was the misunderstanding? I couldn't keep quiet any longer. You said, since you can't ride in the car, why don't you walk back, didn't you? This was the plain truth. I hate lying. Thanks to that, I was reminded of my mountain climbing club days. A 3-hour one-way walk was good exercise. Walter looked back at mother-in-law. He knows well that I'm not the type to lie. The eyes of father-in-law, Walter, and I were all on mother-in-law. What? You believe this woman over me? We three are family. This woman is a stranger, right? You believe a stranger over your family? Mother-in-law screamed. So I was not allowed in the car because I'm a stranger. I said quietly. Mom, I can't believe you would say something like that. Jennifer is an important part of my family. I wanted you to feel the same way. Walter said, clenching his fist. His hand was trembling with anger. If you're going to treat Jennifer like this, I'm done with you, Mom. I won't answer your calls anymore. Don't contact Jennifer either. Walter took my hand and said, let's go. Walter, wait. Walter slammed the door and, without looking back, took my hand and started walking. A year later. Hey, Jennifer, Walter. Over here, you can see the view really well. Walter, father-in-law, and I were mountain climbing together. Walter received a transfer order 6 months later, and we moved back to our previous home. After the incident at the New Year's celebration, father-in-law decided to divorce and moved alone near our house. Climbing together on weekends had become a regular thing. Shall we have lunch here? At the summit, we eagerly began preparing our meal. While working, father-in-law started talking. Mom went on a spending spree after the divorce, even though the property division was done properly. It seems she's already in financial trouble. She might have been lonely. The divorce was tough, with all the crying and screaming. Putting some distance between us now is probably best for both of us. That's how it felt. She should expand her world too. Otherwise, she's the type to take out her stress on those close to her. I listened silently to their conversation. I'll cherish my own world, so I don't have to take out my stress on others. Looking at the view from the mountain with my precious family, I made that resolution in my heart.